It has been a brilliant year for gaming, a seriously strong showing with loads of major releases hitting the mark and a lot of indies also shining. But there's also been some stinkers, some generational honking nonsense, so I decided to round up some of the worst games of 2025 that I played this year. Two things to note before we start. Firstly, this is just from my experiences with the games. I know there is at least one in here that might seem a bit harsh, but it's my list, so shush. Secondly, next week I will be ranking every single 2025 game that I played this year, which is over 35 of them, and the week after we'll be ranking every single game I played in 2025, regardless of release date. And I played over 60 games this year, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. But enough waffling, here are the stinkers. Black Ops 7 was a huge failure in my eyes. As someone who genuinely did enjoy Black Ops 6, this does feel like a step back. The multiplayer is perfectly competent, but it just feels like an inferior version of the previous game. I don't think it really expands on that formula. The zombies is fun enough, but I honestly just think that I've aged out of the mud. Gone are the days of me completing Easter eggs. But the real reason that the game is here is the campaign. What the hell is this? I played through the whole thing because I hate myself and it's just awful. It tried to prey on your Black Ops 2 nostalgia and fails miserably. It pops you in Warzone maps and tells you to shoot stuff. It forces co-op into the equation for some reason. You can't pause the game. If you leave the mission partway through, you have to start it again from the beginning. It also forces tedious boss fights into every mission. It is embarrassing. It is just simply embarrassing that this is what Call of Duty has become. There were moments during my playthrough of Avowed where I did see the vision. Utilising a magic build was quite fun, some of the areas looked quite nice, but the whole thing just felt so surface level and devoid of soul. The game feels so restrained in almost every way, and not like Obsidian at all. Almost every character in this game is just boring and forgettable. It has some of the worst companions I've seen in an RPG, and whilst the combat was fun at times, it becomes extremely repetitive pretty quickly. This is also a 2025 game. There are a lot of them that do this, that just suddenly ends. Being this low though does feel a bit harsh on Avowed, but the truth is that I just played so many great games this year that a game that does nothing special and is just so average and nothingness is going to be on this list, because that's just the standard that 2025 has set. Many will see MindsEye not being at the bottom of this list and be angry already, but hear me out. As bad as MindsEye was, don't get me wrong, bad game, I actually did have some fun playing it. Don't get me wrong, the game is bad, but I was actually seemingly the only person to play the game on launch and have very few bugs or other technical issues. The combat is extremely simple and lacking basic features such as a melee or throwables. The story I actually found quite interesting at the start, but it does eventually become quite tedious and boring, and is yet another game in 2025 that just suddenly ends, which as we get further down the list you'll notice happens again. MindsEye was one of the worst games of 2025, no doubt, but I just don't think that it was the worst. Putting Atomfall on this list actually feels quite harsh, but I just didn't enjoy my time with the game all that much. It's actually heavily inspired by the area I live in the north of England, so I was very intrigued by the prospect of this game. But unfortunately, the structure is just too open-ended for my taste. The game gives you almost no direction, it's just exploring and finding your route through the game however you do so naturally. That is not a flaw on its own per se, it's just not my taste. There are definitely people that would love Atomfall, and I could not fault them for that opinion at all. It's just not really my thing. I also found the combat extremely boring and the story a real letdown. The game is yet another 2025 game that just suddenly ends with zero closure. I can definitely see how others could enjoy Atomfall a lot more than I did. It just doesn't jive with my tastes. I was actually quite excited for Splitgate 2, but boy was this a disaster. From the make FBS great again fiasco, the pointless battle royale mode, and the disgustingly poor progression, Splitgate 2 seemed like a culmination of poor decisions. I actually found the core, moment-to-moment gameplay quite fun in bursts, but after the first few weeks of playing, the game just did absolutely nothing to make me want to keep playing. The progression is a complete joke. The maps were incredibly uninspired visually, the class system didn't fit the game at all. Add some absurdly predatory microtransactions on top, and Splitgate 2 was simply an all-round mess that I believe is going back into development. There's some funky nonsense going on over there. All in Abyss Judge the Fake is a game you will probably not have heard of, and I do not blame you, and I do not recommend it. I should like this game. It combines two things I actually really enjoy: poker and visual novels. Yes, this is a visual novel where you play poker. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a particularly good job with either of them. The writing is pretty poor and simple. I quite liked the characterization of the main character, but the dialogue just always leaves a hell of a lot to be desired, and each chapter plays out in a very predictable way. The poker aspects also feel far too scripted. Each boss is cheating, so the game consists of trying to figure out how they're cheating and use that to exploit them. You can purchase abilities with skill points and whatever to use in the game as well. There is a sort of poker game in there, I just don't think it's a very good one. The game just doesn't really do anything well enough to be overly enjoyable, and as somebody who is pretty much the exact target audience for this game, I think me not liking it is a pretty clear indictment. The worst game I have played this year by a decent distance, in all honesty, is definitely FBC Firebreak. I love Remedy as much as the next guy, but this was a huge swing and a miss. The onboarding at launch was a complete disaster. The game tells you nothing and just shoves you into its shortest, most boring level. There is barely any content in the game, with the aim of the game being to replay the shorter levels on higher difficulties, which then makes them longer. Now, sometimes cool stuff does happen in some of the levels, but the whole thing as a package just doesn't work at all. The progression's a mess, the general moment-to-moment gameplay is not satisfying, the game is boring, and I just still view this game as a complete disaster. So, those are the worst games of 2025 that I played. Did Atomfall or Avowed being here piss you off at all? Please feel free to tell me in the comments, and also tell me what were your worst games of 2025. Please let me know that, so that we can be haters together. Make sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, because it really does help me out. And also make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the rest of the cool stuff we're doing in December. Remember, we're doing a full Game of the Year ranking next week. The week after, a full game ranking of everything I played this year. Over 60 games. It's going to be crazy. I hope you are as excited as I am, even though you probably aren't. But either way, have a nice day, and goodbye.